Hi, it's Eva Cartman, and you are listening to the Dream Big Podcast Show, the place to go to learn, laugh, and grow. Today we welcome the mentor of one of my mentors. Does that make him my grand mentor? Well, he definitely is very deserving of that title, and I am thrilled that you get to meet the very wise and very inspirational Myron Golden in episode 180 of the Dream Big Podcast. You ready? Because it's time to dream big.
Welcome to the Dream Big Podcast Show. We're inspiring you to shoot for the moon, take aim and go. We bring to you amazing guests who truly love what they do. Every day they're living their dreams, and so can you. Dream big, take action to reach your goals. Are you pumped yet? It's showtime, let's rock and roll.
Before I introduce this week's guest, here is a segment that we like to call Silly Sophia.
What does a clown wear under his raincoat? Underwear. What do kids play when they can't play with a phone? Board games.
Thank you, Sophia. Our guest today is Myron Golden. In episode 176, I had Russell Brunson on the show. Russell is considered one of the world's leading marketers, and today's guest is a man that he commonly refers to as his mentor. So when Russell needs advice on sales or marketing, the person he calls on for advice is Myron Golden. As you know, I'm a big believer that it is never too early to start dreaming big and taking action, but I am also a big believer in the power of mentorship. That means finding mentors that have done it before, that have learned valuable lessons that they can teach you so that you don't repeat their mistakes and can get to your goals much faster. After you hear my interview with Myron, you will understand why Russell turns to him for advice. As you'll learn, Myron contracted polio as an infant and has walked with a metal brace on his leg his entire life. That hasn't stopped him from becoming a black belt in martial arts and a skilled golfer. And it certainly has not held him back in business, where he has become a go-to speaker and trainer in the areas of sales and marketing. I saw Myron at Russell's Unlock the Secrets event last year, and I am so grateful that I decided to introduce myself, invite him on the podcast, and that he agreed to be my guest. I am so excited to have you hear directly from my grand mentor himself. So without further ado, here's my interview with Myron Golden. Hi, Myron.
Hello, Eva. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am utterly fantastic. Better now that I'm talking to you.
Myron, this is such a joy to have you on the podcast. I mean, like the vast majority of the guests I've had on the podcast, I've never met before. And I've had the good fortune to say hello and chat briefly at the Unlock the Secrets event. And actually just yesterday, I interviewed Russell Brunson, who I also met. So it's back-to-back days of legends on the Dream Big podcast.
Well, I think the biggest legend on the Dream Big podcast is you, Eva.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before I met you in person, I had already seen you on video telling stories, and you're such an engaging speaker that all the audience focuses on is the words of wisdom coming out of your mouth. But you do have a visible limp, though, and you have openly shared with audiences why that is the case. Do you mind sharing with our big dreamers? Because I think there's a valuable lesson there.
You know, I think you're right. I think there is a valuable lesson there. So, yeah, I definitely have a limp. I have a metal brace on my leg that goes from under the bottom of my left foot all the way up to my hip. And basically it helps me walk because my leg's not strong enough to hold my body weight because I had a disease as an infant called polio. And basically polio is a neuromuscular disease and it attacks the nerves in your spine that control certain parts of your body. And so for me, it affected my left side, predominantly my left leg. And so that's why I have a brace on my leg. And I think that one of the lessons that we can learn from that, and I think there are many, but I think one of the lessons that we learn from that is that, you know, everybody has a challenge to overcome of some kind, but if there were no challenges, you could not be a champion.
That is so true, and I appreciate you sharing that, Myron, because we've had lots of guests on our podcast who, through no fault of their own, faced medical challenges, often from childhood. The late, great Sean Stevenson, who you probably know through ClickFunnels, through the ClickFunnels community, is a prime example. I find it so admirable. Not only have you not let that condition hold you back, because you're the most confident speaker I've ever seen, but you've also gone on to become a black belt in martial arts, and I know you're an avid golfer too, both of which you could have easily used your leg as an excuse not to try or even get started, but you kept on going.
Indeed. I loved martial arts from the first time I ever saw a Bruce Lee movie when I was a child. And I think I was probably 12 or 13 in the first Bruce Lee movie that I saw, and I was blown away by his moves, and I knew that was something I had to learn. And as far as golf is concerned, I'm not as much an avid golfer. I'm probably more a better description would probably be that I'm a golfaholic. I probably shouldn't say that, but it's so true.
It's fine. I'd like to transition to a subject that you're widely considered to be one of the world's top experts of, and that's sales.
Wow.
In fact,
Wow.
like many of the world's most successful entrepreneurs, including Russell Brunson, who I spoke to yesterday, consider you their mentor and turn to you for advice on that subject, right?
Well, I am honored that Russell Brunson would consider me as his mentor in anything. But I am one of the top sales trainers in the world, and my students, many of them make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Some make hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. Some have even made hundreds of thousands of dollars in a day or in an hour, and it's because of understanding how to have conversations that create cash flow and creating messages that move the masses.
That's amazing. But I also understand that you being able to sell did not come naturally to you. And in fact, from a story I've heard, it was a really, really rough start for you in the sales industry.
It was indeed.
Can you share a little bit about those initial experiences and why you knew that developing this skill was so essential for your future?
Well, first of all, I'll say, when I got started in selling back in 1985, I was horrible. I wasn't just not good. I was really horrible. And I didn't know I was horrible. And I didn't think I was horrible. In fact, my sales trainer, he told me how I was one of the best presenters he had ever seen. But I didn't realize then, a lot of people don't realize now, that being able to give a good presentation and being able to sell are not necessarily the same thing. And so selling has to do with persuasion, and persuasion has to do with helping people feel empowered to make a decision they desire to make. And I didn't understand any of that stuff when I first got started. And so I got started in sales in October of 1985. I did not actually make my first sale until April of 1987, which was a year and a half later. That's how bad I was. And now it's not uncommon for me to one-on-one close sales that are 30, 40, 50, 60, $100,000. And it's not uncommon for me to, from stage, do hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in sales from the stage.
Well, I'm glad you did not give up, Myron, because not only have you been able to have success, it's just the like now you've taught these skills to other people, so like hopefully that they won't have to struggle as much as you did. And I'm sure that this is tied to why you are such a great salesman. But even in that answer about the challenges you faced early in your sales career, it is easy to see that you're an incredible storyteller. So why are stories so powerful for sales and moving people to take action?
I think stories are not just powerful for sales, but I just think stories are powerful, period, because stories are what let other people know that we're human. People love stories. We love to be read stories when we're little children. We love to watch movies that are nothing more than stories that are being acted out by people. And we love to hear stories and see stories unfold. And I think the thing that people love most about stories, Eva, is the fact they love it. We love it when we can see ourselves in a story that's being told. And so if you can tell a story in a way that helps the people who are hearing that story see themselves in the story as maybe the person who's going through the difficulty, or the person who overcame the difficulty, or the person who's being inspired, or the person who's being inspiring, then those people will be able to relate to you. And people have a tendency to buy things from people they feel like they know, they feel like they like, and they feel like they can trust.
Wow, that is very powerful and a big lesson for our big dreamers. Stories
Absolutely.
are just important everywhere. They are everywhere, and even if you can't see it, they are there.
Absolutely.
Like if you're watching a movie, you may think, like you said, it's a story too. Like it's the beginning, middle, and end. Every story has to have that beginning, the middle part, and the end. So if anything has that, then it's a story. So there are stories all around us.
Even songs and poems are stories.
Yeah.
Even the greatest book that's ever been written, and that's the Bible, it has tons of stories.
For sure. And I know with these stories that, like, when I was younger, the stories keep on going. When I was younger, I used to love having stories read to me. Now I love reading books. And now the podcast, it's a story of all these people. It's their story. And now you've added to that story. So now I'm telling stories to all these kids.
And I'm inspired by your story, and the fact that you're such a great interviewer. And you know what I wish, Eva? I wish that every interviewer were as good as you are. It would make being interviewed so much easier.
Thank you. So I know that, unfortunately, there are a lot of misconceptions and negative feelings about salespeople. Mm-hmm. Like, you'll hear a lot of adults complaining about getting calls from salespeople, or hear people say things like, he's just trying to sell me something, as if they don't care. And my mom and dad are in sales, so personally I love salespeople, but I do think that it's important for our young big dreamers to understand why salespeople are so important and why they should consider wanting to get good at sales. Could you explain a little bit?
Absolutely. So I believe that, first of all, the reason people don't like sales and they don't like salespeople is because of all of the bad salespeople, the poor salespeople, the people who are unskilled at sales who attempted to sell them things in the past. Because I hear people say all the time, people love to buy, but they hate to be sold. But I don't believe that's true. I believe people love to buy and they love to be sold, but they hate to be convinced. And see, selling and convincing are not the same thing. Selling is persuasion, and convincing is what you resort to when you have not persuaded somebody. So I'm going to define it like this. Convincing is when you attempt to get somebody to do something you desire them to do for your reasons. Selling is when you help somebody make a decision they already desire to make for their own reasons. I was just speaking to a group of entrepreneurs in Boise, Idaho. In fact, it was to a group of people in Russell Brunson's inner circle, and I had everybody take some money out of their wallet. And I had them hold it up in the air. And I said, I want you to look at that money, and I want you to realize something. The only reason any of us ever have any money in our pocket or in our bank account to do anything that we desire to do for the people we love or the cause that we care about is because somebody somewhere sold something to someone for a profit. And if salespeople didn't exist, none of us would ever have any money. Because in order for somebody to make money, something has to be sold. Even if you're not in the industry of selling, the company that you work for wouldn't be able to pay you if they didn't have salespeople going out and making sales. So all of us should thank God for salespeople every morning when we wake up, and pray for them every night before we go to bed, and say, "Dear God, please let those salespeople make a lot of sales tomorrow so we can keep on eating."
You're right. Just like any field in life, there are good people, there are good salespeople, and there are bad salespeople. And just like there are good doctors and bad doctors, good teachers and bad teachers. So, like, if you ever get someone at a store who's being too aggressive or pushy, even when you say you're not interested and they're trying to still convince you, just realize that they're not that good at sales. But that doesn't mean that you can't be good at sales.
Absolutely. And that doesn't mean that they are the representatives of sales. In fact, people who are not good salespeople are the misrepresentatives of salespeople. And that's why people don't like sales and they don't like to be sold, because somebody who wasn't good at it tried to sell them something. If somebody who's good at sales sells you something, you won't even remember that they sold it to you. You will think that you just went and bought it.
You're right. And like, salespeople are also people, so even if you get a bad salesperson, doesn't mean that you have to, like, be mean about it and say, well, you're just trying to sell me something, so what? You can at least, like, say thank you, but I'm, like, not that interested. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is not for me at this time, or whatever. Exactly.
Actually, my parents went to Russell's events, Funnel Hacking Live, a few years ago, and you came on stage to help Russell sell his coaching program. And in that talk, you told a number of stories, and one was about the law of advancement, and you shared a story about a baby eagle learning to fly. And I love that story so much that I actually did an entire solo episode about you and that story that you told back in 2018. Wow.
Well, you'll have to point me to that so I can go listen to you do it, because I'm sure you did it very well.
But since we have the man, the legend himself on the podcast, I was actually wondering if you could share the story with our big dreamers today, because there's such a valuable lesson in that story.
Indeed. Well, if you think about it, so I start the story with, I draw a picture of a seed on the board. And when I draw that picture of the seed on the board, I say, this is a seed, and this seed says, I want to be a tree. And then someone says to the seed, you don't want to be a tree. You just think you want to be a tree. And the seed says, I want to be a tree. 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 And the person says to the seed, well, if you're going to be a seed, if you're going to be a tree, you know what you have to do? I don't care what I have to do. I want to be a tree. I want to be a tree. I want to be a tree. Well, you're going to have to go down into the ground. And then I ask the question, Eva, when you go down when the seed goes into the ground, what does it have to do before it can become a tree? And people will say, well, it has to sprout, and it has to have water, and there has to be dirt, and it has to die. All those are true. But the first thing it has to do is it has to be willing to cease to be a seed. And in order for you to grow and become all that you can be, you have to first be willing to stop being everything you've always been, so you can grow into something that you've not yet become. And so it finally says, okay, I'm willing to stop being a seed. It grows up and becomes a tree. And one day, two eagles, a mommy eagle and a daddy eagle, are flying by. And the mommy eagle says, I've got some good news for you, baby. And the daddy eagle says, what's that, baby? And the mama eagle says, we're going to have some new little eagles. And the daddy eagle says, oh, baby, are you serious? And she says, I am, but we're going to need a bigger nest. And he says, how about that tree over there? And she says, I'd like that. And so he builds a new nest, and she lays these eggs, and they become little eaglets. And the mommy eagle and the daddy eagle, every day they leave and they go out and they fly, and their wings to those little baby eaglets sound like helicopters taking off. And they go out and they fly and they bring back food and they bring back fur and they keep the baby eaglets warm. And every day the baby eaglets say, can I learn how to fly today, mommy? And the mama eagle says, not today, baby, not today. And the next day, can I learn how to fly today, baby, mommy? Not today, baby, not today. What about today? Not today, baby. And then finally, mama eagle says, tomorrow, you're all going to learn how to fly. We're going to learn how to fly. We're going to learn how to fly. And they're so excited. They don't sleep all night long. And they, all night long, they're just up, waiting, excited, looking forward to the next day when they learn how to fly. And the next morning they get up, mommy, it's time to learn how to fly. It's time to learn how to fly. Can I go first? Can I go first? And mommy eagle says, okay, get on my back. And mommy eagle flies high like only eagles can fly. Woof, woof, higher, mommy, higher. And the mommy eagle keeps going up, but I want to higher, mommy, higher. And when am I going to learn to fly, mommy? When am I going to higher, mommy? And mommy goes higher, and all of a sudden, mommy eagle turns over, and the baby eagle falls off of mommy's back and starts falling and just flapping its wings and not being able to fly and falling faster and faster. Mommy, oh no, mommy, save me, mommy. And before the baby eagle hits the ground, mommy eagle comes down, catches the baby eagle on its back, flies it back to the nest, and the baby's crying. Why did you do that, baby? Why did you do that? And mama eagle gets the baby eagle back to the nest. And the other brothers and sisters say, did you learn how to fly? He says, whatever you do, don't get on mama's back because she's crazy, man. She's crazy. And every day, mama eagle takes all the eagles up and dumps them off her back, and they fall and fall and fall. And they come back home at night, and the eagles say, we don't want to learn how to fly. I don't want to learn how to fly. I just want to be a chicken. I don't want to learn how to fly. And the next day they get up, and mama eagle says, get on my back. No, mommy, no, I don't want to fly. And mommy says, if I have to tell you one more time, yes, ma'am. And the baby eagle gets on the mama eagle's back, and the mama eagle goes higher. No, mommy, no, higher. And then the mama eagle goes, I know, mommy, I don't want to learn how to fly. I don't want to learn how to fly. I don't want to learn how to fly. I'm running away now. And the mommy goes higher, dumps the baby eagle off his back, and the baby's falling. Oh, no, I don't want to fly. I'm going to die. And all of a sudden, the wind catches that baby eagle's wings just right. And all of a sudden, the baby eagle starts soaring. And it starts soaring, and it flaps its wing, and it goes a little higher. And then it says, I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. And the baby eagle flies back to the nest. And finally, all those baby eagles learn how to fly. But what's really interesting, the law of advancement teaches us that when the baby eagle learns how to fly, it doesn't jump out of the nest and go straight up in the air. And when the mommy eagle dumps that baby eagle off its back, it doesn't go straight up in the air. What it does is it falls until it learns how to make the wind catch its wings just right. And see, in nature, before anything can go up, it has to go down. It doesn't matter if it's a seed that has to go down into the ground before it can become a tree, or a baby eagle that has to learn to fall before it can learn to fly. Or if you're talking about digging a foundation for a building before it can become a skyscraper. Even an plane that goes in the air, the wings are angled down so the plane can go up. In nature, before anything can go up, it has to go down. Even when we're working out, Eva, before we can get our strength to go up, when we start working out makes us weaker before it makes us stronger. Because the law of advancement states that in nature, before anything can go up, it has to go down. And that's one of the reasons I believe that most people never succeed, because they're so uncomfortable with the feeling of falling that they don't allow themselves to fall often enough to learn to fly. That's the law of advancement.
Wow. I think I did a pretty decent job of telling the story, but you're a true master, Myron.
Well, thank you, Eva.
And just remember, big dreamers, just like Myron said, when you are pushing outside of your comfort zone, don't expect you'll be perfect from the get-go. In fact, perfect is an impossible standard anyway. So when you try something new for the very first time, like riding a bike, just like the baby eagle, you will fall, but you will get back up and try again. And eventually, you'll learn to ride that bike, and those falls are definitely worth it.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
I mean, just big dreamers. What the great Les Brown once said, and he's famous for saying, know your vitamin. And if you look at the no as getting you one step closer to your yes, then you know that it's part of the learning process and part of your journey, and that you will continue to push until you achieve success, right?
Absolutely.
So, Myron, at the end of my interviews, I always like to ask the same set of questions to my guests. So these will be more rapid fire style, where I'll ask you the question, get your response, and move to the next one. Sound good?
Sounds like a plan.
Ready?
Let's go.
If you go back in time and talk to your 10-year-old self, what would be the best advice?
If I was to go back in time and talk to my 10-year-old self, the best advice I would give myself would be to please God, love and serve people, and everything else in life will fall into place.
Wow. When you've doubted yourself in the past, what made you overcome those fears and continue to pursue your dream?
Something my dad used to always say to me, if we were working on a car and there was a bolt that we couldn't get out because it was rusted in, and I'd say, Dad, it's not working. It's not coming out. He would say, oh, it's coming out. It doesn't have a choice because we have a brain and it doesn't have a brain. And that made me realize whatever challenge I face in life, as long as I have a brain, I can always win.
You've already made many of your dreams a reality, but if you look at yourself today, what is your big dream for the future?
My big dream for the future would be to create a movement that teaches people how to live a fulfilling and free life based on the success principles that are in the Bible.
And finally, where can our audience find out more about you?
If your audience wants to find out more about me, the best place to go and research, if they want to learn how to make, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year or a month or a week or an hour, would probably be my website, StageSellingSecrets.com. StageSellingSecrets.com would be the best place to find that. If they want to reach out to me on Instagram, the best place to reach me would be at Myron Golden. That's MyronGolden.
Thank you so much, Myron, for coming on the Dream Big podcast.
Absolutely my pleasure. And thank you for hosting the Dream Big podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, it was amazing having you here. And I just want to say thank you to you for sharing such amazing advice with our big dreamers.
Thank you, and congratulations in advance.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
How amazing was that? There are some people that speak with such confidence that you can just tell that what they are saying comes from years of experience and that they really know their stuff. Myron Golden is definitely that kind of person, and I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did talking with him. Be sure to check out our show notes at dreambigpodcast.com/180 for links to Myron's website and everything else we discussed in the episode. If you haven't already, I encourage you to check out SchoolSuccessBlueprint.com, my very first product where I share the top mindset and productivity principles that can help you improve your grades at school, but also to enjoy your time there. You can learn all about the 3 workshops and 4 amazing bonuses that are included in the blueprint if you go to SchoolSuccessBlueprint.com. Unlike the podcast, the blueprint contains video lessons, and we hired an amazing illustrator, so I know you will love it. Have your parents go to SchoolSuccessBlueprint.com to check it out, and we'll also include links in the show notes at DreamBigPodcast.com/180. If you haven't already, please take a moment to leave a review on iTunes at DreamBigPodcast.com/iTunes. It means the world to me, and my parents and I do read each and every one of the reviews. And in your review, give my 4-year-old sister a shout out for her Silly Sophia segment too. Thank you so much for being part of this community. This is Eva Cartman reminding you that you have unlimited potential. Your dreams are not optional, you need to make them essential. So take massive action to turn those big dreams into reality. Live with passion the way life was meant to be. I'll see you next episode. Bye-bye.